We are on item 26. So this is after Election Day. Here are the items that I have seen. Sorry. So 26. So another piece of evidence is the data showing how unlikely it is to win all 7 swing states. 35 billion to 1. This goes back to the reference on this is the Planet Critical article. It was mentioned up above in the list, but this is, I specifically wanted to call this out because this is another item that sticks out and it doesn't really make sense. So that's item 26. 27, data showing how many bullet ballots there are. So bullet ballots are when you have a ballot and someone marks the presidential candidate at the top and they mark nothing else. It's kind of rare, and in this election, so there's 7 swing states, 7 battleground states, and there's 43 other states that are not battleground states. And if you go to any of those states, the number of bullet ballots is 1% or less. So it's a very small amount. In the battleground states for this election, the numbers are very high compared to 1%. For example, in Arizona, it is 7.2%. That's how many there were. 1%, 7.2% Arizona. In Pennsylvania, 5.5%. So that is a big jump. In North Carolina, it was the highest number, and that was at 11%. So a figure that would be normally around 1% is now jumping off the chart in battleground states, which tells us that there are a large number of bullet ballots for Donald Trump in battleground states. But for some reason, you go to all 43 states that aren't battleground and you don't see that. So that is another red flag that comes up. Next, number 28, data analytics. And I added this item because if you go out to TikTok, there are people specifically trained in data analytics that they're around data all day, every day for their full-time day job. And they are raising the alarm at how there are so many issues with this data. One of the things they say is that the data looks too perfect. The one I watched earlier, there were people leaving comments saying it looks like someone drew the data up for a presentation. Like it's fake. What they say is that data is messy and it shouldn't look that perfect. So I wanted to make a note for data analytics. There's a lot of examples out there, so I can expand on that later. Number 29. Human error forces recount of 30,000 absentee ballots in Milwaukee as Trump accuses Pennsylvania of disinformation. So this is a news article. It looks like it was a newspaper in France that was doing articles on issues with ballots. So this goes back up to the other issue where ballots are missing, ballot boxes being burned, people throwing away ballots. So it's stuff like that it's part of that issue. Number 30, I have a video of an interview with a worker at Tulare County, California, in which she says that they use Starlink. So I wanted to keep track of this video. I believe it's another circumstantial evidence for a possible issue with Starlink related to this. And then I have 2 items here, and I added links to them on X or Twitter. And if you can pause the video and you can go to that account, and hopefully the tweets on X will still be there. You can pause the video, go to the account, and try to pull up the statuses, or you can pause the video and actually write the whole URL down. But it was another piece of evidence for issues with this election. Now, I didn't number this next one because this is not a specific issue, but these types of things, these type of bad things that happen at this election, you got to have money, okay? So you have Elon Musk with a bunch of money, and you have Peter Thiel. So not only is Peter Thiel a Trump donor, in which he gives a lot of money to the Trump campaign, in which there's no limit on the amount of money, but he raised $70 million in funding for Polymarket. And all of a sudden, the alarm bells start going off. And you begin to see a connection to other puzzle pieces. So I didn't put this as one of the items, but it is something that should get looked into. Is Peter Thiel was, based on Trump winning, he is set to make a lot of money. And he benefits from Trump winning the election. So he has a lot of motivation to make sure that Trump wins. I'll say that. Okay. So that goes the first list. So now what I did was, there were certain items in the list that are connected back to 2020. And I am not talking about the election of 2020. I'm talking about events that happened after the election, because what happened after 2020 is that Republicans and MAGA were doing the whole Stop the Steal, and they used the Stop the Steal movement to gain access, and in some case illegally gain access to voting systems hardware, voting system software, and election data. Voter data, and other sensitive items that the public should not have access to. And even Trump's lawyers should not have gotten access to. So, one big event is the Georgia RICO case. And within the RICO case, there is one item that is in particular interest, is the conspiracy to commit each of election fraud, computer theft, computer trespass, computer invasion of privacy, that's related to voter data, and defraud the state, relating to state electors, and how they were getting access to systems they shouldn't have. And all of those charges specifically relate to the breach of voting equipment in Coffee County, Georgia, which is a very big event relating to the 2024 election, because they got access to the system. And when you look at Stephen Spoonamore and you're laying out the full picture, these people had access to the software, and they had years to look at exploits and look at how to beat the system, how to hack the system. It's all related. So, Sidney Powell got access to voting machines in Coffee County, Georgia. I put in a news article about Coffee County here, and I also have that Scott Hall was another person out of the 18 people in the RICO case. He was one of the first that took a plea deal to avoid jail time, and he removed election equipment and computer voting data from Coffee County. And you can pause the video if you want to read that. And then I decided to add this little section here that there's a guy right there. Oh, you can't really see it, but that's Jeff Clark. Jeff Clark was in the Trump administration, and what is interesting is that there's a connection between Sidney Powell, which is here, and Scott Hall and Jeffrey Clark. They're connected. Sidney Powell let Scott Hall in to the voting machines, to the software, and then during that time period, Scott Hall had a phone call with Jeffrey Clark, and the phone call lasted 63 minutes. An hour and 3 minutes they were on the phone with each other. What do you think they're talking about for 63 minutes? Are you kidding me? So all of that in Coffee County and the RICO case is all under item 33. All of it. It could be broken down into multiple items, but just for the sake of my list, it's all under one item. Next, 34. Tina Peters from Colorado. Tina Peters got 9 years in prison. And that's about all you have to say about that. 9 years. She's in prison right now. And you can Google Tina Peters from Colorado, and that's a whole nother rabbit hole. And as you can see on my list, we have another green person, Gerald Wood. Item 35. Because you could put Tina Peters and Gerald Wood under item 34, but I think this is especially interesting because of who this guy is. So I'm pretty sure he took a plea deal in order to lock up Tina Peters. Tina Peters was the election clerk. Her full-time job was in the election office, and she gave a badge to Gerald Wood, and he got access to the voting machine software. And that's just so interesting. And that happened, something happened in August of this year. So you had, well, actually the news story was from August. And he has a background as a software engineer. So you have Elon, he's a software engineer. You have the Polymarket guy, software engineer. And now you have Gerald Wood, who's a software engineer. That's why they're highlighted in green, because there is a aspect of this where you need software engineers writing code, and it'd be really interesting to know what kind of code these people are writing. So they're on the list. His house got raided by a sheriff's department. And I'm just going to make a note of, at this point, at the point of the Colorado, there was, and it's not just Georgia and Colorado, it is Pennsylvania, it is Michigan. There are breaches. And it's to the point where this software should either not be used or it should be completely rewritten right now, since these bad actors have made copies of the software. We know that the password is hard-coded into there and everybody knows the password. And these are huge issues. So, with that said, that is my list of evidence. It is circumstantial evidence because I do not have the ability to go and interrogate these people. I don't have access to any of these buildings or voting machines or software. I don't have access to it. So of course, it's circumstantial evidence, but it doesn't mean that something didn't happen. And there's a lot of it. So I'm going to wrap up this video. Thank you for watching. Major props if you stayed to the end. I'll probably be making more videos as I dive into each of these issues. I will probably make videos where I go into detail about stuff I find out about them, but I just wanted to make a list so that way it's not just people that are Democrats that are following all of this stuff, but also anyone that voted for Donald Trump and they ask us, you know, isn't this the same as 2020? No, this is not the same as 2020. I believe that without them getting access to the voting software and the hardware, without doing that, I don't believe that this election, it could have went the way that it did. I think the only reason the 2024 election happened the way it did is because of the issues of the wrong people getting access to that stuff. So I'm going to wrap it up. Thank you so much for watching this, and there'll be more videos to come. So thank you for watching, and I'll see you